We are back for season 2 of the Sports Diary podcast, and we can't wait to share the guests that we've got for you this season.
If you have joined us from season 1, a big thank you for sticking with us and welcome back.
And if you're new here, welcome to the Sports Diary podcast, the place where we get to know the world of sport a little bit better. This episode is sponsored by All Star Dance and Fitness Academy. All Star Dance and Fitness Academy offer a variety of classes to suit all ages and abilities, from ballet to musical theatre, from heels to gymnastics. They have classes at Summers Road, St Gabriel's Holton and St George's Hill Morton. They also run holiday clubs at Leamington Hastings Church of England Academy in school holidays, jam-packed with fun and creative activities. If that wasn't enough, they also offer children's party entertainment, from dance parties to teepee sleepovers. They handle every detail to ensure a memorable and stress-free celebration. Get in touch today for more information and free trials. Welcome to the first episode of season 2 of the Sports Diary podcast. Today's guest, Liam O'Neill, has spent 35 years in the world of football, from player to coach, holding his UEFA A coaching licence, helping to shape the future of young players. Liam talks to us about his career-threatening injury the day after he played against Manchester United, the mental health aspect of the game, and his coaching career, where he's worked with Lionesses Ella Toone and Millie Turner, just to name a few. This conversation is filled with highs, lows, achievements and challenges, so let's dive in. So our first guest for the first episode of season 2 is the wonderful Liam O'Neill. Liam, welcome to the podcast. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me. Cheers.
I'm really excited to get into this conversation today because I think that you're going to have some great stories.
No pressure. No pressure. Straight away.
What we like to do with all of our guests, first of all, is ask 3 interesting facts about yourself that people might not already know.
Okay. I was an extra in the Mike Bassett England manager football films.
Was you?
Yeah.
That's very cool.
At Wembley, and Wembley got knocked down, I think, the week after. So the last game England played on it was against Germany, and on the Monday we went in and did all the football scenes for a week for that film.
Oh, wow.
Second one, it's quite a bit embarrassing. Used to model for Adidas.
That's amazing.
Yeah, no, I did, even though I'm a dwarf. But yeah, it was for clothing. That was when I was playing. And third one, I think I'm still the youngest player to ever play in the first team at Rugby Town.
That's
15.
Good.
Yeah. So that's quite proud moment.
Good, interesting facts.
I feel like you just trumped my Argos.
I don't know, but you've just trumped me because I've just been put on the spot massively there. God. God.
From player to coach, you've managed, and I feel like this is a lie because you don't only look about 23. You've managed 35 years in the game.
Yeah.
Which is really impressive. Please, can you walk us through your journey?
Yeah, so for Coventry City as a schoolboy, in the reserves at Blackburn at 16. Then I played full-time at Cheltenham as well for 3 or 4 years. Bit of an injury there, probably stunted my career slightly. But everything happens for a reason, doesn't it? You know, I'm not saying that I played in the Premier League or anything, but yeah, it probably did stump me a bit. Then I came out of full-time game, I think 2021, and then played, I think, probably another 500 odd non-league games for like lots of local non-league clubs, Banbury, Evesham, them sort of teams, Atherstone, Rugby, Warwick. So still managed to get a decent amount of games in. And then I was playing for Bedworth at the time. I think 2007. I was 33. I was struggling a little bit with injuries. I had a couple of ops on my ankles, and I think I was captain 1 week at Bedworth. The manager left on the Monday, and I became the manager on the Saturday. So I didn't really have that transition between thinking about packing up and then going into coaching. It was just thrust upon me, and I just decided at 33, probably sort of wasn't playing at my best at that stage. And they said, look, caretaker manager at Bedworth. So I took it, and we stayed up, never looked back, and I was 2.5 years manager there. I think first season we stayed up, second season finished, the highest I'd finished 6-7 years, and then the third year we got to the FA Cup 4th qualifier at York City, which is the furthest I've ever been in like 100 years, or equal third record that I've been in. So that was 2009. And then I just continued in semi-pro, assistant management, national league sort of level, and then just went through my badges as a coach, and that's how I've evolved really. Yeah.
So what got you into football to start with?
Dad, yeah.
Classic.
So again, Rugby Town, VS Rugby it used to be called. My dad used to play for them, used to be on the committee. I pretty much weren't born there, but I pretty much spent all of my infancy years and all of my childhood watching VS Rugby at Butlin Road. Never missed a game, and trained with the team. I was just always there, and it just became just. I obviously had a bit of natural talent, obviously, but I was just brought up in that footballing environment from the word go, and it just felt totally normal for me, which is why it's great to be running an academy in my hometown. Yeah, it's even better. But yeah, that's how it came about. And for my Sims, I'm a Man United fan. Again, that's my dad's fault, especially at the moment. But yeah, so my dad's massive influence on why I started and why I'm still in it, really.
Was it your daughter that you posted the other day? Was it today? She's going, Man United.
Oh, summer, yeah. Oh, yeah.
So funny.
That was last night watching United City, and she's in the kitchen, and I'm not sitting there, and she can obviously hear me when I'm watching United, and she obviously they mimic everything you say, the kids, don't they? And she was like, "Come on, United! Come on,
It
United!"
was the fist. She got it right.
I'm like, "This is great. I've got to get this. I've got to get this," because nobody will believe me. But she just did it off the cuff on her own. It was fantastic. But yeah, I've sort of bringing her up the right way as well.
It was just how she put her whole soul into it. And it was the fist and everything.
Yeah.
Scrunch face. I was like,
oh yeah.
She's one to watch.
It is, yeah. Well, I wanted to play. So my eldest, Orla's 15. She's 15 on Friday, and she's a dancer. So there was never really a let's get her into football, because she just knew what she wanted to do. She's very, very good actually, but I couldn't push her. She just was better at dancing. So she goes everywhere dancing, and she's danced at Disneyland Paris, and so she's really talented. And but summer, I'm desperate to get her to play football. I'm desperate. So I'm trying, but at the moment she's got no interest whatsoever, apart from when she just can shout during games. So I'm just going to, hopefully I might be able to change that in the next few years.
Future, one to watch.
Yeah, I hope so.
So you briefly touched on an injury, which we believe was probably quite a pivotal moment in your career. So, you'd played against Man United the night before.
Yeah.
So how did that impact you mentally and physically? Because in that 24-hour period, you've experienced a real high, and then you've gone to a low.
Yeah.
What was that like?
Obviously it's a long time ago now, but it was brilliant. It was probably one of the best weeks of my life, and also ended up in probably one of the worst ever. But it was a real strange week because I grew up at VS Rugby, and the manager at the time, a guy called Jimmy Knox, his brother was assistant manager to Fergie at Man United. And Jimmy had been at the club for a long, long time, and he had a testimonial. And he'd promised me since, I don't know, I must have been 12 or 13, he said, "Listen, I'm going to have a testimonial. It's going to be about Man United. I'm still here. I want you to play." Because he knew I grew up as a United fan, and he just got me, and Jimmy gave me my debut at VS Rugby. And so it was like, when it came around, I was at Cheltenham. I was playing for Cheltenham at the time, and they allowed me to come back to play in this game, which was good of them. Ali Robertson was a gaffer at the time. And I think on the Monday, we'd played at Bournemouth. I played at Bournemouth in reserves on the Monday, and I'd scored. So I was buzzing about that. Scored at Bournemouth on the Monday. The Tuesday, I got the manager pulled me in, and I got a call up to the Republic of Ireland under 18 squad, and or on the standby list. I think it was on the standby list, and that was, again, that would have been a dream, but it obviously didn't work out that way, unfortunately. And then on the Wednesday, playing against United. So it was quite, looking back, it was quite funny, because on the Tuesday night, the local paper was Gloucestershire Echo, and on the Tuesday night, the back page was O'Neill to play against his heroes, and there was a picture of me at the ground with a Cheltenham shirt on and a Man United scarf, a big sort of write-up on the back page. So that was like, got a lot of stick from that, from the lads then, from what I can remember. And then played against United on the Wednesday. We actually beat them 1-0. And when you loosely say Man United, we were a non-league club, and they've just won the FA Cup in '91, and their team was pretty much filled with 10 internationals. It would never happen nowadays. It'd be the 23s. But at the time, there was Brian Robson was England captain, Palace was England centre half, Jim Leighton, Scotland goalie, Mal Donaghy, Northern Ireland captain, Mark Robbins, who was the old Cov manager, he played. Lee Martin had got the winner at Wembley, so it was like proper. It was virtually their full. Kinchelski's the Russian international, their full first team, and beaten 1-0, bizarrely. And I got on for about 15 minutes at the end of the game, so I was just made up. I was 17, and I remember after the game, Gary Palliser, I got on for a header, and he'd elbowed me. I said to my mum after the game, I said, I don't think I'm going to go in tomorrow because I don't feel great. Got this, and he's like, you're going in. You got a game. You playing. You got a game tomorrow. So got the train back into Cheltenham on the Thursday morning. We had a resi game on the Thursday night, and it was just really, really weird. I'd come on at half time because I'd obviously played Monday, had a game on the Wednesday, and then I didn't start on the Thursday because I'd done enough that week, and just came on just after half time, and I just literally, we played a team about 2 or 3 leagues below, and they were boisterous to say the least. And of course, me being me when I was younger, I was quite sort of, what's it, like cocky, but I was a very confident player, and I was quite sort of, I'll say tricky-ish, and I sort of went to knock it round a lad, and he just jumped 2-footed straight through me. It's football, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's football at the end of the day, and you're gonna get injured. But it was a bad one, and it was tib and fib, dislocated my ankle, medial knee ligaments. So it was a big injury, and it was horrible because I looked down and I was about to get up, and then I just saw my sort of, like the grisly detail, saw my foot pointing the other way, and you then go, "Whoa, I'm in trouble, yeah." And then the guy that I was playing, I was staying with a first year YTS lad called Andy Tucker, who's still really good, really, really close friends of ours still. And his dad ran on the pitch, Ken, and he sat with me for about half an hour and just holding my hand, and I was in bits. I cried, I was crying, I was screaming, and then went to hospital, and they put me in plaster until my mum and dad came that night, but they didn't realise I was a full-time player. So they just thought I was just a Sunday league player. Got me kit on. They didn't realise that I was doing it full time. And my mum said, "Look, he's a full time footballer, don't you?" And I went, "Oh no, we didn't. That changes things." And my mum went, "Why is that then?" "Oh, we need to get into surgery then quick." Like that. So I went down, and I remember I had this surgeon called Mr. Misra, and I was in there for 3.5 hours. And before all the talk before was never play again. Pins, plates, and all that palaver. And anyway, I came round, and I'm sort of already going in thinking I'm probably never play again. Came out, and I said, "Oh, what pins and plates have I got in?" And my mum went, and my dad went, "Haven't?" "What?" He went, "Yeah, this surgeon, he said he worked on it, manipulation for 3 hours, and it was almost, and I'll never forget it, 10%, 90% luck, 10% skill. How it just all of a sudden he was manipulating it, straight back in, clean as a whistle, and then I was able to. There was a jockey, national hunt jockey at the time called Peter Scudamore, and I think there'd been some racing at Cheltenham, and he was in the same plaster room as I was as well. So he'd come off and broke his ankle or something, and so it was quite. It was a real. It was a tough week, and then the night after I'd done it, I was on the back of the Gloucestershire Echo again, but I was in a hospital bed with a plaster up to me groin. So yeah, you could say, look, at the end of the day, I still enjoyed everything up to a reason. I believe that more and more as I've got older, and I just think that I was very, very fortunate having such a severe injury to even be able to kick another ball again. So I feel so fortunate I was able to play another 4 or 5. Nearly 600 games after that, so yeah, I'm really pleased, actually, with the outcome.
I can imagine at that time mentally that could have ruined you, or it could have made you. Like, how did you feel when it all happened?
Yeah, I mean, it was a tough time. I think it was 13 or 14 months I was out, and mentally it was hard to sing. I mean, and I'm not ashamed to say, in those days the doctors were saying you need to have lots of steak, lots of Guinness, iron, calcium, milk, and with being at home. I took it to the extreme where I was drinking sort of 4 or 5 pints of Guinness on a Thursday, Friday, Saturday night, but I didn't drink, and I just thought that's what they want, that's what I need to try and strengthen my bones, and so yeah, I probably took it to excess, and not that I had no, probably shouldn't have said. I didn't have a drinking problem. I didn't have a drink problem. It was almost like I was eating steak, Guinness, and but too much of it.
Yeah.
Because I ballooned. My weight was absolutely. I remember we had a game on. I think it was my 18th birthday, and we had Colchester or Barnet or somebody like that at home on the Saturday, and I remember going to the game. I was still on crutches at the time, and in them days, you went to games with your club shirt and tie, jacket, and trousers, and I've not put these on obviously since August, and I remember sitting on bed back at my mum's, and I could get these trousers on, and like literally, and I mean inches away from getting them on. I'm like, oh my God, I've had a mare. I've had a mare, and and that moment, and that's why really for the rest, all the way through the rest of my career, and even now, I really like. I always think back to that. I think I'm never getting that situation again. Never getting like that heavy or overweight ever again, because that probably put another extra 2 months on my rehab.
Yeah.
And I remember it was that was probably a pivotal moment in terms of what I use now talking to some of our players about. They see academy coaches and myself that, you know, it's all, oh, he's been brilliant, he's done this, they're going to tell us how great they were all the time. I actually use that as a mechanism for some lads to go, actually, do you know what, right, eat properly, because this is what I did, and that's not good, right? So I'm looking from that experience I had, and it's not a great experience, and I wish if I'd have known now what I knew then what I knew now in terms of, you know, the way they have to eat and drink.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have went down that route. So it's nice to tell a story where actually it's a negative for me, but it builds a positive for the young players that I'm around.
Sure.
But yeah, mentally it was tough. I think the toughest thing mentally was the first challenge in a game. And we had a pre-season friendly at a ground called the Folly where we trained, and we had West Ham. It was a Saturday morning, and I think I got booked after, I'd probably tell you, 20 seconds, got booked. From the kickoff, it's gone back, and I've literally ran at the first person I could get near and smashed them. And everybody knew that's not me, because I didn't tackle at all. Right? Everybody would laugh about it, saying, doesn't have a tackle. It wouldn't even get, I'd be like, oh no, I don't tackle. I don't want to get dirty or anything like that. But I smashed this lad, and it was really the feeling of euphoria I got doing that. Shouldn't have done it, but I needed to.
Mm-hmm.
And it was almost like I needed just to get over that initial sort of, I was scared. I was scared that if somebody contacted me, right, without me sort of being the instigator, I don't know what could happen. But I knew that if I was in control of the situation and I'm instigating it, I felt a lot more confident when I went to that first tackle. So I did. And from that moment, I was okay. I think we had the very next time though, we had Birmingham City at home. I remember at Wadden Road at Cheltenham in a resi game, and they had a first team right back. I think it was Ian Clarkson. It was the right back, and I played left hand side, and he played right back. And I've gone in for a tackle, and he's just gone straight through me. It wasn't a foul, wasn't anything. Just gone straight through me. He had to come off. That was the first and the only moment I ever thought I'd done it again. But it wasn't. It was just it just was a cuts, bruises. That was it. Within 3 or 4 days, I was right as rain again. And it really, the mental block in the first challenge that you had was probably the toughest thing, which is why I controlled that situation. What I do now is with the younger players that I'm coaching, I've got several sort of okay, probably think I'm boring. They probably think I'm boring, but I've got this PowerPoint presentation. Minor setback, major comeback, and it basically is just a bit of a story of coming back from an injury, and then little sort of like different segments on beating the mental block. You know, this loads of little quirky little phrases that I give the kids to say, listen, look at what happened to me, and I'm still sort of able to. I'll be able to play in a testimonial now. I'd still be able to get around a pitch now, you know, just for fun sort of thing. But it's something again that if I hadn't experienced that, I wouldn't then be able to now push it towards the young lads that I've got and young girls I've got that are having a similar sort of struggle. So that's something again, another negative that I've try and turn some of those experiences into positives for the younger generation. You know, and it was a tough time, but yeah, look, resilience. It's built my character. Yeah, it built my character.
Did you get a chance to work with like a sports psychologist back then, or was that?
No.
Didn't even finish your sentence.
I wish it was in them days. It was literally, there was nothing, you know, the big club physio.
Yeah.
But there's not a lot I could do for like, I was in plaster for
Your
three,
mental block.
yeah, nothing like that. No, nothing. I just had to, I just had a really good support network in my parents and my family. A really good support network that kept me sort of going. But I think with me though, the thing is, I was quite, I was very, very driven as a kid, really driven. I knew what I wanted to do, knew where I wanted to be with it. Didn't quite work out as it could have and should have. And again, that's something that I will always look at and think I didn't do enough to achieve what I wanted to achieve. And I hold my hands up sometimes in terms of staying after training like other players did. I couldn't wait to get on a train or get back to my digs, you know. And if I look back, why didn't I stay out for an extra hour running and doing stuff like that? But I didn't, you know. But you know, it's psychologically, it's made me a tougher character, and I was so driven as a kid. I knew what I wanted to do. I knew what I wanted to end up as, and say 35 years later, and you know, it's all that sort of sacrifice you have to make, and that's another thing. The younger generation of player nowadays, you know, it's without, you know, we've worked with some brilliant young footballers and great attitudes, but something that they really need to, you have to sacrifice a lot, you know, to play at a good level or to still be in the game when you get to my age. You know, I've had to sacrifice a lot, you know, like silly little things like never having a drink on Christmas Day, so you got game Boxing Day, never going out on Friday night, never going out on New Year's Eve, training on Sunday morning if you get beat on the Saturday, you know, things that you've had to sacrifice, not going to family weddings, all those little holidays can only be that month, and you know, and all those things that you sacrifice, and I think that's something else we work quite a lot on with our academy players, is the sacrifices you've got to make to try and make something of yourself. It's really important.
Mental health has become such an important part and topic in sport today. So you mentioned there how you talk about like a comeback from mental health. So do you do these as workshops, and how do your players respond to it?
Yeah, so we used over the last sort of probably five, 6 seasons now. There was a company called it's quite a harsh name. It's Sport Against Suicide, and it's run by a lady called Tara Hancock. And she first was piloting it 5, 6 years ago, and she said, "Oh, would you mind if we used you at the academy as a guinea pig for me?" I said, "Yeah, of course, it's no problem." And that sort of time, it was almost like, oh, this is like a box ticking exercise. Well, actually, when we saw it in action with our youngsters, I was like, "What? This is brilliant." And I'd sit in on it, and the staff would sit in on it, and then I'd say to the tutors, "You come and sit on it." And she was then doing that probably once a quarter with all our players, and you're talking probably 2018 actually. And then the importance, and for example, there was lots and lots of things that we'd have a sit down after she did the workshop, and she'd say she'd like a big body language sort of girl she is, and she'd say, "Have you noticed about the one that sat over there, and the one that sat in here, and the one that sort of moved his body into a different position the moment I mentioned this, or the anxiety question, or the depression question, or whatever." And she was really, really good. And off the back of it, well, several, probably 10, 12 players would take a number individually, and she'd work individually with them. And she came in last, I think it was November, for her last workshop. She doesn't actually do it full time anymore, but she still comes and does it for our scholars at the academy. But it's massively important now, because COVID's got a lot to do with the way that the kids are, that the young players that we deal with now. What it's done to their sort of resilience and mental strength is quite worrying, really. The younger players wouldn't admit that, but from you know, coach's point of view, and from an older adult's point of view, you can see it a mile off. And we're just now trying to still have these workshops to try and build a bit of resilience, and just say to them, look, you know, we've all been through tough times, and we're going to go through many more tough times, but you got to talk about it. And again, The last one we did, there's a couple that she spoke to individually again that are struggling, that don't want to knock my door, don't want to knock our student. We've got a player liaison officer, a student support officer at the club, at the academy, and they still. She's brilliant, Sam, absolutely fantastic. But it's a personal thing, and we can be as come and knock the door, and we can talk about anything. But it's I just want to have almost like a bounce board of somebody that isn't involved with where they're at that moment. So yeah, it's really, really important. We also have workshops on from an ex-Premier League footballer that comes in and speaks to the boys about alcoholism, drugs, gambling. That he's achieved, played in the Premier League, lost everything, and now he's going around doing these workshops with the younger players. Again, which is prevalent in modern society. So yeah, we're massive advocates of the mental health workshops. In fact, they're invaluable. You know, they're absolutely invaluable, and we will always continue to do them. Yeah, so that it's a big part of a young person's mindset now.
It sounds like
We've got to support it.
Really important to you that
Yeah.
all ages have access to this. And I think what you're doing is just incredible. I know personally from like our cheerleading background that I wish we kind of had that kind of support going back then, because it's not the same as it used to be, but I think I would have personally benefited of having someone.
I agree. I'm exactly the same. If I'd have had somebody to, it's really interesting because when my son was going through the academy process at Birmingham City, they occasionally had a sports psychologist, and we had to go to have a meeting. And I think he was 13, and we went into this meeting with a sports psychologist, and I'm sitting there with Joe, and the first question the psychologist asked was, right, you've got to get this question right, Joe, else we won't continue with the interview. And I'm sitting there going, what's the relevance of this? Anyway, and he said, so Joe, he said, who do you want to be a footballer for? What do you want to be? He said, I want to be a footballer. Okay. Who do you want to be a footballer for? And he went, well, me, why? I went, good answer. And I went, what's the relevance of that? He goes, the amount of kids that come and say, because of my dad or because of my mum. And he was saying things, like doing things like, this is like a few, like 10, 11 years ago. And he was doing things like the way parents speak to young players or their sons. And he said, what's the last thing your dad says to you before a game when he's waiting in the car and you're away at Liverpool or somewhere? What's your last thing your dad says? He said, oh, wind the window down. So, mate, good luck. Whatever you do, don't give the ball away. Don't give it away. And he'll go, yeah, all right, Dad. Okay, like that. And he said, do you realise the effect that has on him? I went, no. He goes, okay. And then he said, if I said to you, don't think of a red lorry, what are you thinking about? A red lorry. So when he gets the ball in the first minute of the game, don't give it away. Don't give it away. Gives it away. Because you put under that much pressure.
External pressure.
Exactly. And little things like how do you get by it, over it? It's like, and this guy said, there's this thing called the focal point where you can automatically go from a negative to a positive. God, sounds like I'm a psychologist, doesn't it? But God, I need some help, I think. God, here we go. But he said he got this focal point, and he said, look, what's the best game you've ever played in, Joe? And he said, under 13s at Everton, and we won 6-2. I scored a hat trick. Yeah, so that's my best game. Okay, he said. So when you make a mistake in a game, how do you feel? I feel rubbish. Feel rubbish. Yeah. He said, and when the ball comes to you next time, do you want the ball because you've given it away 3 times, or do you sort of shy away a little bit? Well, sometimes depends what part of the game is, what the score is. If I've given it away a few times, I might not probably go and want to get the ball as much. He said, right. He said, what you've got to do is you've got to get a focal point on your wrist or on your bottom of your top of your right toe on your boot. He said, when you make an error, he said, you just look at your wrist quickly and just go Everton, like that. And he said, and Joe still does it to this day, straight away a negative by just looking and going Everton. It makes him feel like he's the best player in the world again, just from going like that. Because that's the time when he was brilliant in a game, he thinks. And then you've not been great in a moment in a game, and I see him sometimes now going like this, just looking at his wrist. Maybe it's a habit now, I don't know. But it just tries to flip your brain from a negative to actually, I'm a good player, so give me the ball sort of thing. And it's some brilliant, this guy came out with some brilliant stuff, really, really interesting. And that's probably why I'm very interested in the psychology of it all. Yeah.
For sure. How much do you think it's changed, like the mental health side, since you were a player?
Oh, totally changed. It's a different world now. It's almost like a different sport. It's just You know, you were made, like, for example, there's coaches and managers that I've played for in the past that, in fact, I went to a 30-year reunion for a club I used to play for on Saturday, and we were talking about our manager. Most of the players are now early 60s. I'm 51. Our manager was there. He's 82, but he was a baller and a shouter and a hang you up against the peg.
Wow.
And those are the sort of managers in them days that thought that was the best way of getting the best out of a player, by giving you a rollicking. You know, and you know, I remember, I tell this story quite a lot. I remember playing in a pre-season game at Cheltenham, and I had an old manager called Lindsay Parsons, who was a fantastic coach, fantastic manager, but he didn't really rate me. But it's just, that's a game of opinions. He didn't really rate me as a player, you know, and the previous manager did. He didn't. That's just football, you know. It's opinions. Remember we had a pre-season game away, and there's quite a lot of first team players playing, and we were 0-0, and I got a rollicking at half time, and he literally put me up against a peg. You ever serve up like that again, you'll never ever play for this football club again. It was pretty much my arch nemesis at that stage. But over the years, you know, you couldn't dream of doing that, or getting rollickings at half time, and the verbals and to me it just meant we had to be more resilient in my days. Just quickly touching on this Lindsay Parsons, manager at Cheltenham, it's really interesting because I'm quite strict in terms of all of our scholars, in terms of their jobs and their responsibilities and being accountable and all that. And after training, they have to do the laundry, the ball, sweep the dressing rooms, all that sort of stuff. And my dad said to me, he said, when Lindsay sadly passed away, and my dad said to me, he said, do you know what? He said, I know you didn't see eye to eye. He said, do you ever realise why you're like that with your scholars? I went, not really. He goes, you got that from him. And even though we didn't see eye to eye, I'm almost a double of how he was with us. I am with mine now, you know. So I've learned some brilliant things for my young players and young players I work with, in terms of the psychology and how to treat them, how not to treat them. I've taken some great things from managers and coaches and using them. I've taken some bad things from great managers and not using them. And I've sort of used that experience to kind of put myself in a position where, you know, you have to treat each individual player as an individual player. I work on this thing. I also do a lot of individual development sessions as well. And I work on this acronym called KUDOS. And I'm a big believer in the K is knowing the person. The U is understanding the person. The D is develop the player. Observe success. And I just think I'm a really big advocate of this, because I always think now that you have to build a relationship to get the best out of any young player. You got to know him. Then you got to understand them. It's all right knowing them, but then you got to understand how they tick and how they work, and whether one needs an arm round and one needs to kick up the backside. Then I can start to scratch the surface away and developing him into being the best player, a good player. And then you'll observe success. So I'm quite deep in terms of how I use that KUDOS phrase, because I just think it's really important. You can't just click your fingers and be a coach and just automatically go, this is what I want you to do. I'll help you. I want you to go and do it now. It's not just as simple as that anymore. No, you've got to know the individual, know how they work, how they tick, and then you've got half a chance. So I'm very, very sort of, you know, it's just part of the game nowadays, or life nowadays, not just football, not in anything. You've got to be so careful with how you deal with people, because at the end of the day, they're human beings. And you know, and especially with, again, working with the females as well, that brings another side to it as well. So you a different breed, we're different, aren't we? You know, and again, that's another thing that I've learned over the last few years. Not only now knowing how to deal with the younger male player, it's helped me take some of my experiences and now give me a new skill in terms of how to deal with a female player. Because they're different. The different mindsets are different, and hormonally they're different, and lots of different things. So yeah, I'm a big, again, I say it again, a big advocate of it. But it's so important in this day and age, and we have to. Everybody in the game has to really try and, what's the word I'm looking for? Try and promote the mental health side of sports people.
You're definitely so right saying how like males and females are different. So I've had the experience when I played football,
Yeah.
having a male coach, and it was very, you were just a boy. That's
Yeah.
literally how it was back
Yeah.
then.
Yeah.
And then I'll never forget Lisa. She was one of my favourite coaches, and I think she played for under 21s England
Right. Okay. Yeah.
back
Yeah.
in those days. And she actually spoke to you like a human being. Even towards the boys, she still spoke to you. But the difference was just insane.
Yeah.
Like if you're a girl or
Yeah.
a boy. And
Yeah.
I was like, I had a lot of respect for her. And she's the one coach that I'll always remember,
Yeah.
which will probably be quite nice for you in like
Yeah,
20,
it is.
30 years
Yeah,
time. They go, oh,
yeah,
do you remember
yeah. I
Leah?
love it. Yeah, I get it now. I get it now sometimes, and it's really proud moments, you know, and you know, especially when we've had several lads that have gone on to play pro football from the academy, and they'll send you a shirt. Or there's a girl that I currently coach that's been captain of England under 17s last season, and she brought me a captain's pennant from the Holland game and stuff like that. And you know, she played for Birmingham actually on Sunday and last Sunday in the sort of the under 21s FA Cup for women, and they beat Leicester 4-3. And then on Thursday when I coached her, brought me the medal, brought me the shirt. You know, and I've had her since she was 8. Been coaching her since she was 8, and it fills me with such pride.
Yeah, you're making an impact.
Making an impact on young players' lives. I think it's important what you say about the male and the female bit, because I don't really distinguish between, when I'm actually coaching, I don't actually distinguish between the male and the female former player. To me, they're just footballers, and I think especially working with females, that's what the females want. They just want to be treated as a footballer. And just because you're a boy footballer and a girl footballer, you're footballers.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care what you are. I expect the same effort, attitude, application. I expect you to be able to do exactly the same that I'd want a boy to do, right? And I will go as far as saying that, and I say this to lots and lots and lots of people, it's coaching girls is totally on a different level and sphere to coaching boys. It is almost like coaching two different say sexes, but they are sexes. Two different types of just two different things. They're totally different in terms of ingestion of my knowledge. I'll impart some knowledge on them, or I'll give them some information, and it stays. Whereas lads are a little bit more sort of chirpy and a bit more, you know, they already know it all a bit, you know. Now, and I suppose I was the same, but the girls are more, they hang on your every word. Yeah, it's but you've just got to be, especially in this day and age, you've got to be so prepared to change, you know, and that's been something that's I've found, you know, as I'm getting older, you know, you become a little bit more set in your ways, don't you, and stubborn and etc. My wife would definitely tell me that, but I've had to change too, and my methodology in coaching and my method of the way I speak to people, younger players, male and female, has had to change. But I'm still evolving at 51 in a coach. I'm still trying to be better every day.
So we often talk about the women's game and like the growth of the game on the pod and across our social media. We've been lucky enough to have a couple of the Rugby Borough women's players on. Now you've coached some top female players and like Vela Toon, Millie Turner, Leah Galton. So I mean, they're just to name a few. How did you become exposed to the women's game?
Very, very good friend of mine. It was a random meeting at. We do a lot of work with the PFA at the academy, and the PFA phoned up, and when they're doing UEFA licenses, they have the pro on, especially on the pros one. They need guinea pigs again, so they use our scholars to go and be the guinea pigs for the pros while they put sessions on. Anyway, one day, this is probably about, I don't know, 8 or 9 years ago, and probably about 7 or 8 years ago, and they phoned up. Craig Hinton phoned me up. He said, "Oh, can you get a group of players to St George's Park tomorrow?" And I went, "Yeah, of course I can." Because when they ask, we'll more often than not go, "Of course we can," because it's great for the kids to train at St George's Park, and we know you're going to get some decent names coaching them, so it's a great experience for them. And I went, "Yeah, what time do you need to start?" 2 o'clock. So I'll get there, and he goes, "Oh, I've done you a favour here." I said, "Oh, why is that?" And he said, "It's Phil Neville." I went, "Oh, right, okay." And it's just got the England job, and he said, so his first training session is going to be based around this. So he just wanted to run it with players. So then when he does it with England next week, it'll go to Clockwork, see if it works. And I went, oh, brilliant, absolutely fantastic. And on the radio, I was on the way in, and it said England international Casey Stoney, former England captain, Great Britain Olympic captain, retires today from professional football, and takes up a post as number 2 at England Lionesses. So we get there and meet Casey Stoney, lovely woman. Phil was great. That was that. Took the lads back home, blah blah. And then about 2 or 3 weeks later, I was doing something on a qualification or something at St George's. I'm walking down the spiral staircase, and Casey Stoney bumps into me, and she went, and this, I'll never forget this. And you know when people take time to remember your name, she went, Liam. I went, all right, yeah, how you doing? You're right, yeah. She goes, listen, I'll be in touch. I'm like, okay, I've got your number. I've got your number. I'll be in touch. I'm walking up the other way, going, was that a bit awkward? Did you just think you won't be in touch? You won't. You just
being nice.
Yeah, just pleasantries. You won't be in touch, and we laugh about it now. And yeah, true to her word, she phoned me about a month or 2 later, and she said, "You probably heard I've just been announced as a Manchester United women's manager." I said, "Yeah, I did." I said, "Fantastic. So I'm a United fan." She goes, "Could you bring a team up of academy players and come and play our girls in a pre-season game?" I went, "Yeah, we'll come to United. Yeah, of course I will." So we took a team up, and you're talking Ella Toone, Lauren James, Alex Greenwood, Kirsty Smith, Millie, Leah, Katie Zellum, the lot, right? And it was brilliant, great for our lads to play against United. Even though the women team, we played them 4 or 5 times over a period of 18 months. I don't think we lost a game. We were outplayed. We were technically miles away from them. Physically, overran them physically. But in terms of technical speed, ability, they were just another level, right? And we won the games because we'd score from corners and we'd get the ball over the top. And physically, we're too strong. It's men against women, and that's the physics of it, really. But it was a great test for the girls, a great test for the United girls. That's why Casey loved us coming up there, and there was close games as well. And that was how it started. And then off the back of it, me and Casey became brilliant, really, really good friends. And then it started at Toons and Millie and Leah and Molly Green was there at the time, Kirsty Smith. I'd then go up in the summer and do some of their off-season training, do some one-to-ones with them in the summer. That was great. I still work with some of them now. And me and Casey became really, 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 really close. And to this day, I speak to her 2 or 3 times a week. She's now head coach of Canada. She's my youngest daughter's godmother. And I went out to San Diego to spend a week with them last summer when she was San Diego manager, and seen her at Christmas in Lincoln. And I've become very, very, very close. And she's probably, I'd say probably, and she's probably embarrassed by this because she's very much like that, but probably my best friend in football. She's an incredible lady. Sacrifices she's made over the last 3 or 4 years. Everybody just sees a Man United manager, San Diego, England, ex-England, Canada national team. The sacrifices she's made for her family over the last 2 or 3 years are just incredible. And it's just, she got me in it, and I'm forever grateful for that.
So how does coaching the women's game differ from the men's in terms of mentality, approaches and challenges?
Yeah, lots totally different. It's challenges. I can probably, again, it's the mental side of it. They're built differently, females to males, obviously, but it's just a totally different way of coaching. It's more, I find that when I'm coaching the girls, I find I have a lot more fun when I'm coaching the female players. Don't know why. I don't know why, but their coachability, I could probably, I might buy 100 and a quarter for saying this, but coachability wise, they're a lot easier to coach girls. Willing to learn more, because I think lads want to be footballers. They think they're already footballers. They think they want to have been one, and you think you're already there. And you're a little bit less sort of, I suppose, what's the word I can use without getting slated. lads think they know it all already, and the girls are more appreciative. For how you can help them. But again, in terms of like, obviously we're starting our female academy this year. Little things you have to take in consideration, and I've had some good advice from some good people, like, dark shorts, for example. Probably going a bit deep here, but dark shorts, dark shirts we're wearing next season. Women's fit kits, not boys fit kits that I'm bringing in, because they want to look smart. The chances are they'll play smart, and I want the girls to feel good, feel comfortable in what they're wearing, and always being comfortable with what they're wearing. And that's something we've already got sorted for this season. The lads actually wear what you like, the boys. Just stick your kit on, whatever. But there is a lot more to think about. It's like, for example, there's Casey was speaking to me about this probably 5-6 years ago, about hips and things like that with girls, because obviously childbearing hips are different body mechanics to us, to boys, and I'm always quite I'm very, very vocal in terms of when I coach, right? And I'm very, very passionate about how I coach, and hip movement is something that I'm always shouting, hips, 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 because it's so important. It's difficult for girls because their hips don't move as freely than the boys do. So when I'm getting the girls to roll your hip out, or open your hip there, or just open your hip 45 degrees, it's a lot more difficult for girls to do that. And again, so you've got to then take a bit off and go, actually, I appreciate that's a lot more difficult for you, right, to do, right? Not your fault that you can't do it, for example, but I'm not saying they can't do it, but most of them can anyway, because they're at a good level of football. But little things like that you need to take into consideration when you're coaching with girls and when you're coaching with men, that probably other people wouldn't see, that would make a difference, but it actually does. That the physics of it means it's not as easy to get it off your back foot. It's not as easy, and it's proven. But yeah, in terms of the differences, it's something, especially with me running the female academy last year, it's something I can't wait to get my teeth into, because it's reinvigorated me, I think, as a coach, to be able to take the girls team forward, because I've done all the boys teams for years and stuff like that, but just seeing how I can develop. We've developed quite a few players that have gone on to play at higher levels through our academy in the pro game. It'd be nice to try and develop one within our academy into the pro game from local as well.
Ready for 2035?
Yeah.
Go.
So I'd like to think that there's some really good local talent around, but again, it's just how I can develop them, and you've got to be really adaptable, because I suppose obviously with females, it's going to be times where we go back to the kudos thing about knowing and understanding the player, the person. I'd like to think that when a lad will come in on a Tuesday morning after we played on a Monday night and he's been awful, you need to know that person, understand, is it the right time for me to get him in the office and show him some clips? Do I leave him because I don't think he really wants to talk about it? But then I can show that kind of empathy because I've been him. All our coaching staff have been full-time players, and we can all really empathise with younger players and how to deal with those situations. And it goes back to the mental thing again. Now with girls, it could be different cycle, for example.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm allowed to talk about this, aren't I?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. I'm going to watch everything I say, don't I? But no, the menstrual cycle. Again, that's something where I need to understand the person, know the person in that type of situation, and again, that's another skill that I'm learning as I'm going along. And I just think that the way I am as a person now, and as I've evolved as a coach, it's something I'm really looking forward to, because that's going to really give me another skill in terms of how to deal with those sort of situations as well. Because I think I'm all right at putting my arm around a young. Actually, probably shouldn't say it in the loosest possible sense. Obviously, putting my arm around a young player. Yeah, no, but when the players need ones that need a kick up the bum and ones need an arm round them, obviously metaphorically speaking. Yeah, but yeah, you know, and that's going to be something that really, really excites me in terms of a new skill for me. That's going to develop me into, I like to think, a better coach. You know, knowing how to handle the female side of the game.
I really like that you're opening yourself up to that. A lot of men will shy away from it.
Well, you got to. There's no other way out. That I have to. If I'm going to be a success, or we're going to be a success at the academy with our girls' academy, I have to, and we have to. It's there's no there's no other way around it. You've got to, and you've got to. Even you get to my age, and you start to think, "Oh, I've probably seen that, been there, done it 5 times, been around the block a few times." But then there's always things that I'm more than happy to go on a course for this and a course for that and a course for that, because I don't want to stop learning. I'm still learning. You know, I'm not finished. Okay, I've got a UEFA A license and stuff, but I'm not the finished article as a coach by any stretch of the imagination, because I've still things I want to do in the game. And if I can sort of be an advocate of the female game and try and develop young female players by having the knowledge of how to understand and develop them, then I think we'll all be onto a winner locally, especially.
I think it's really important, though, that men are slowly advocating for females with their cycles, because you've obviously got so many different things like endometriosis and adenomyosis, and there's just so many different things that young girls are going through now. And I think if you can step up for them, being that compassionate coach that it sounds like that you are, and you've got all these mental health workshops, if anything, they're going to be like, do you know what, I trust my coach. And they're going to believe in you, and vice versa.
Go back, how am I going to get the best out of them?
Yeah.
You've got to trust me. We've got to have that implicit trust that I'm doing everything I can to help you. Sometimes you're going to get a rollicking. Sometimes you're going to be told that wasn't good enough or this isn't good enough. But again, it's knowing the player and how to deal with each individual player. That's part of being a good coach. You can't just put a blanket over all the players and all the squad and just be. You have got to change your style to suit every player if you're going to be successful. And I think that the other thing, for example, like I know that over time I've had a situation where there's a player that I knew, I won't name names, that had been a wonderful success at a certain level 2 or 3 years ago, and then went to another level, higher level, and wasn't the same success, and she couldn't deliver what she was doing in the year before. And it turns out that there was she was on she felt like not clinically depressed, but she was in a state where she struggled to get up for things now. So she was on medication for it, and of course sometimes, especially the certain medication can put weight on, weight on, and it became apparent that it was because of this medication that she put weight on, and she wasn't able to get around the pitch as much. So that was something that, if we'd have known that earlier, then something could have been done about it. And this is where, you know, it's so important at clubs. You need to have these player liaison officers, and especially with the academies that we run, it's a student support officer, where they're able to go and speak to somebody about little things like that, and then get that message passed to us. Yeah. You know, because then we would treat, again, that's another situation that I might have to deal with. Yeah. You know, it's but again, it's something I'm relishing, because I'm can't wait to get really into it and just try and develop myself as a human being, not just as I'm a dad. I've got two girls myself, you know, and you know, that's gonna have its challenges along the way, I'm sure, but yeah, so I'm getting some good practice at home at the moment. But yeah. But no, you're right. It is a totally different way of looking at things, you know. But I think that's the way coaches nowadays. Come on, you got to get with the program. You got to move with it. Don't get stuck. You got to move with it.
Absolutely. We're going to kind of circle back. So we've touched ever so slightly onto qualifications. Yep. So you hold the highest qualification. For our listeners that don't know what it is, what it means, could you explain it to them?
Yeah. So the UEFA A license is the highest coaching qualification that you can get, and I was very fortunate. Being an ex-PFA member, I was able to go through PFA courses, and I've had some over the last sort of 8 or 9 years. I've had some absolutely brilliant mentors, ex-players that work for the PFA: Brian Burrows, Ian Sankey, Craig Hinton, Steve Guinan, some brilliant mentors, and I've been very fortunate. When I did my A license, started it 2 years ago, and I was on the senior pros course, and on my course, I mean, pinching myself, when I was there for a week, and then you go away, and then you see them every 6 weeks to do your different blocks for this and a block for that, and then you go back for a few days and you see them all again. I had Tom Cleverley, who's the Watford manager at the minute, Jermaine Defoe, Granit Xhaka, Dan Gosling. So I've had some fantastic El Neni, the guy that's assistant to Arteta, Carlos Cuesta's on it. I've had some brilliant experiences going through my badges, and the last one, it was just fantastic to be able to be on the same pitch, coaching, and off the back of it as well. I've got some good friends, made some really good friends out of it. But yeah, it's so that's that, and been very, very fortunate. Hard work. It's been a lot of hard work over the years to get there, especially with still being in the game. It's if you're not in the game, you can get your qualifications a lot quicker. But when you're doing your weekends and you Saturdays, it becomes quite difficult to spend a lot of time, because when you do the A license is a lot of presentations, a lot of work out away from it, planning, prepping. Very enjoyable though. It's a brilliant course. And actually, to be honest with you, now I'm not doing the Zoom calls with all the other coaches and the presentations and all that sort of thing. I quite miss it, which is why I'm hopefully, probably this year, probably won't be this year, probably next year, I'm probably going to start a sports psychology degree.
Amazing.
Hopefully, yeah, that the PFA will probably fund as an ex-player. So yeah, it's something I'm really proud to hold. But again, like I said, I'm not the finished article as a coach in any way, shape or form. It just puts me in a good position if
sure.
ever, there was any, if ever there was a situation where I'd need to get another job, because ultimately in football, if you're a manager, you ultimately get the sack, don't you? So yeah, if I ever did need another job, at least I'm in the right position, or they've got the right quals to maybe get one,
Definitely.
But yeah, so I'm really, really, really proud of it. Yeah.
Should be.
Yeah.
So how do you adjust your coaching methods to meet like the needs and the expectations of today's younger players?
Adaptability. You can't be rigid in the way that you want your teams to play anymore. We all say we've got a philosophy and how we want to play, but my opinion, and again, the game of opinions is why it's so great. My philosophy changes in my teams every 5 minutes in every game.
Mm-hmm.
So I listened to on the radio today. Troy Deeney was on TalkSport, and it was going on about Ipswich Wolves on Saturday, and he was saying that Ipswich are getting relegated. They're 5 minutes to go. They're 2-1 down. They're about to get relegated, and they're still playing out from the back. And he said, "What happened to just putting a big centre half up front and booming it and trying causing some chaos?" But he's right. But there's too many people that are too scared to say that because it's a bit agricultural. You know what I mean? And I'm not. I coach all our academy players reality football.
Okay.
Not just a certain. There's a way that I play. There's a way that our coaches will like to play. We have a certain structure. We give the players as much detail as we possibly can, but we put into our players' heads at the academy scenario-based situations. For example, if we're let's say it's we're got 10 men and we're 1-0 down or what have you. We play the second half in blocks of 15 minutes. We know we're under pressure straight away. We get to 45 to 60. If we're still 1-0 down, great. 60 to 75, the game will open up a little bit. So, see where you're at. Don't take any risks. As soon as it gets to 75, have a go. So that means you've got to be adaptable. Your philosophy has to change, but you need to give them scenarios. So we work on a lot of scenario-based stuff in training. I think the other thing is I'm sort of the role that I do. I'm trying to develop players to play a good level of semi-professional football, not necessarily professional football. And the way the semi-pro game is, you managers of non-league clubs, step 4, 5, 3, 2, 1, whatever. It's not beautiful football in non-league by any stretch of the imagination, and they get the ball from back to front, most teams, as quickly as they possibly can. If I was coaching our academy players and developing him to play out from the back and play lovely football like Barcelona used to play or Man City used to play, and then they get an opportunity in a first team, the manager's going to go, "Don't ever send me in again," because he wanted to fart around on it, and we've just conceded a goal. His job's on the line in the first team. It's not in academy football. You can play as pretty as you like, but if I'm trying to coach reality football into getting him into semi-pro clubs, They don't want that.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm mixing every kind of possibility into a player. This is what you'd be expected to do at this level. That's what you're expected to do at this level. And we try and at the academy try and feed all of those little bits of snippets into all of the individuals we have. And this is why all of our staff at the academy have all been players. There's a couple are still playing semi-pro. We've got one guy that's played 500 football league games. So all of our coaches are different in their sort of methodology. They're different in their ideals. They're different in the way they get their points across. But ultimately, they all are on the same hymn sheet in terms of we coach reality and not fantasy. And I think that's something that's really, really important. And okay, I might get shot down in flames by lots of people for the way, but that's me. My philosophy will change as many times as I want it to change in a game, depending on the situation of that game and the scenario we find ourselves in.
Yeah, I think that's really good because, like you said, like these different players, they can all add their own life experience to these situations, which is really good.
Yeah, and I think sometimes, you've got to. I think the hardest thing for young players nowadays, they're brought up on watching the Premier League, and they see all the tacticians on Sky on the Monday night, and they'll go through the low block, the mid block, and this and that and the other, and it's made out to be this sort of everybody seems to be reinventing the wheel in terms of coaching and how this team plays to beat this press and how they do that to beat that press and all that sort of stuff. I get it, and I've done it on my qualifications. I understand it all, but when you're out on when you're over that white line, things change. And one player can let you down in that. You can work on it all week, and one player can let you down. So if that happens, what's your plan B? What's your plan C? What's your plan D? What's your plan E? And I think if I was sort of, giving any advice to young coaches coming through, you've got to have them already in your psyche, because it's different putting a coaching session on. Anybody can go on YouTube and do whatever you like. Go and see a session, put it on, do it on YouTube, put all your cones out, fantastic. There's a total difference between being a coach that does a session and a coach that stands in that dugout with a couple of thousand people behind hurling abuse at you. When you get a bloke sent off and you've got to quickly literally go around, right, get ready quick, and know straight away what you're doing.
Yeah, what your next
straight
plan
away.
is.
And that's the difference. You can have the best coaches in the world, but you've got to be able to think on your feet and have every answer to every solution. And I say it all the time about Guardiola's managed some of the best players in the world, but even sometimes when City are getting beat, you can't tell me De Bruyne don't look over at Guardiola and go, Gaffer,
What's the plan?
what do we?
Yeah.
So there's a lot to be said for it, but I think just adaptability would be the thing, and too many coaches are just rigid, and you can't do that. In the way the game's evolving, you can't be like that anymore. Again, it's only my opinion.
We'll put that in capitals.
Please, God.
So kind of following on from that then, so where would you like to see the men and women's football, especially in terms of the players' development?
Ooh, right, that's a good question. I think there's only one way that the female game's going, and that is through the roof.
Yeah.
Right? As long as everybody still keeps banging the drum and getting behind it. The only worry for me is the sponsorship side of it. And I see all the things about, I know that they were doing at the local club, the Equal FA Cup and all that sort of stuff. And it's a brilliant idea. It's a brilliant idea. And it's something that I'm sure everybody would support. But there's always going to be that sponsorship side to it, where, ideally, probably quite controversial what I'm going to say, but until the crowds are there, and until, like, for example, United Arsenal in the FA Cup this year, there's 60,000 there, there's 60 million people watching it. No wonder the Emirates are sponsoring, you win that game, it's 800 grand or whatever. And it'd be great to be able to go, right, you win the third round of the FA Cup in the women's game, there's 800 grand as well. But at the moment where we're in with the women's game, it's never gonna happen. It's never gonna happen at the moment. But it could do in 10 years, 10 or 12 years. Not saying it's never gonna happen, but at the moment, probably not. No. But I think it's a brilliant thing that a couple of girls were doing at the club. Absolutely brilliant. But I just think it needs more money going into it. It's. I think it should be a prerequisite that the games are played at stadiums straight away. Prerequisite. You're in the WSL. You're in the Champ. Stadiums. That's it. There's no other. You're part of this club. We're playing at the stadium as well. If you're going to be really buy into the women's game as a football club, you have to.
Yeah.
You know, I know that Casey did say something to me when she was at United about they wanted to play a couple of the games at Old Trafford, and she said something quite interesting. She goes, "I feel like we should only play at Old Trafford when we can fill Lee out with 8,000." You know, and I'm like, that's actually quite an interesting thing.
Yeah.
When you can fill Lee Sports Village out with 8,000 people, that's the time then maybe you might be able to then go, right, let's go to Old Trafford.
Yeah.
Obviously, you know, it was a really good, really valid point and a really good point. But look at Arsenal now. I mean, when they play at the Emirates, what, 40,000?
Yeah. Yeah.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Spurs are doing it. You know, and I think that's why it should be made. That should be the rule. It should be made to play at the stadiums. If it's at the stadiums, you've got more chance of families going, more chance of taking the kids. It's at the Emirates. Oh, let's go then.
Yeah.
Or if it's Boreham Wood, oh, I don't really want to go to Boreham
Yeah.
Wood.
And I mean, like, the Bournemouth, what, it holds 3,000?
Exactly.
3,000, is it?
Yeah.
And I just think, like, you know, they were stacking that out every week. So then the jump to the Emirates has been mega.
Phenomenal, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I go to a couple of games. I tend to go to the games on my own. And you just, the feeling is just incredible when they get to actually play in that stadium.
Yeah, I mean, I see it. I know that I think the first game, I think United might have played back in the WSL. I think it was they had City at home first game of the season. I'm sure it was, and they got beat 1-0 and 35,000 and then the games I've had since then probably 25, 30,000 and it seems to be like it's creeping in a little bit more now. But I think it should be a prerequisite now that if you're part of that football club, you know, you have got the right for the women's team to play at that stadium because that then could help grow the game a lot quicker than it currently is, even though it's growing at an intense rate. But I think that should be something has to be done about it. There's got to be more sponsorship put in it. I love the women's game, and in fact, you know, I'd rather watch, you know, the women's game. If Chelsea Arsenal are on the Saturday tea time, I'd rather watch that because I just think it's a bit more. I don't know. I just enjoy it more. Yeah, I really do. I just enjoy it more. You know. So yeah, it will get there. It will get there. And if I can sort of, you know, like what we're doing, you know, we're starting a girls' academy this year, and that's my little. What can I do to try and help it? That's what I can do to help it. If I can do my own little way to try and develop it at a local club, then I'm all for it. Honestly, yeah.
You're on the right track.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
So looking back at your career, what would you say are some of the most defining moments on and off the pitch for you?
Oh, I think defining. Definitely when I had my bad injury. Yeah, that was a defining moment. Like I said, it's built a lot of resilience in me. It's built me as a character. There's lots of great sort of nights I can remember playing in and all that sort of thing. But in terms of defining me as a person, you know, taking away the football, I think that was probably a big moment in my career. You know, you know, I'm not saying that, you know, there's too many people with too many stories about the whys and the ifs and if I hadn't got injured, I'd have done this and all that's a load of rubbish. You know, I knew I wasn't good enough to play in the Championship or the Premier League, but I think if I hadn't had that injury, I think maybe a half decent League Two career, maybe.
Yeah.
But cause I'm not sort of making myself out to be something that I wasn't.
Yeah.
But it did have a big effect on me. Defining moment for the women's game would be a chance meeting of Casey Stoney. By chance, definitely 100%, and
a great friendship as well.
Yeah, and built a beautiful friendship, and something that I trust implicitly, and vice versa. I think pivotal moments in terms of, I suppose the junior side of it, the academy side of it. I think we became at Rugby Town in 2021. We the only team in England to get to the only non-league team in England to get to the third round of the FA Youth Cup.
Wow.
Yeah, so if that'll ever be done again, I don't know. But Arsenal got knocked out the night before,
Yeah.
So we still say we got third in Arsenal that year. Well, we did, really. But no, we had to win 6 games to get to the third round. We beat 2 pro clubs. We beat Morecambe, who were a League One club, in the second round at Butlin Road. 1,000 there, watching an under-18 local team. We had 1,100 for the third round against Cheltenham. Yeah, we beat Morecambe. That was a brilliant night. Just seeing local lads playing and beating a team that on the pyramid of football are 7 leagues above us.
Yeah.
It's incredible. Never. That was the most. I never got to the third round, and now you look back and go, third round, the only non-league club in England, little rugby town, and you couldn't write it. We were in the same draw as listening to the draw. Man United come out with Newcastle, the one before us, and little things like that. We think, Jesus, we're so what an achievement. It still hasn't sunk in really now. People go, it's only the FA Youth Cup third round, yeah, but we've got lads from rugby that were like school team players last year.
Rugby.
Yeah, and we're beating league clubs, and it's just brilliant. That's defining as a coach, and that sort of was probably my proudest moment in the kids, with the young players that we coach. And I think as a manager, because I was only a manager for nearly 3 seasons as a manager of Bedworth United, taking them on the FA Cup run. I still talk about it when I go to Bedworth now. Taking them on the FA Cup run to like equaling record in the 100-year history, and only losing 2-0 at York City, and that was again in itself a brilliant achievement for such a small non-league club. Something I'm really proud of. I've thoroughly enjoyed, and I don't like the word luck and fortune. For me, I don't like the word luck. I don't believe. Obviously I'm my 35th, 36th season next year in football, part time or full time, and I don't think it's luck. I think I'm very fortunate to have it. I think that you earn your own fortune. When luck doesn't come into it, I've worked hard to
a lot of hard work and dedication.
To try and dedication, sacrifice to still be in it, and hopefully I'll be in it for a long time to come. But yeah, I think in terms of the coaching and the chance of meeting with Casey and the Bedworth Cup run, and also I've had, again, I'll say it again, the support network I've had from my family and over the years, and backing me to take some life gambles along the way financially, to go back into full-time football, and to have a family behind you that say, listen, we'll back you if it's something you've got to get back into. Then they've been great. But yeah, it's just fortunate to still be in it. And do you know what? There's far too many people, and I keep saying young players, but there's lots and lots of players out there that, I hate this phrase, I'm not playing this season, so I fell out of love with the game. Well, I fall out of love with football every day, 5 times, 10 times a day. I hate football 5 times a day, but then 30 seconds later, I love it again. Yeah. So you either love it that much that it means more than anything, or you don't really love football that much. You fell out of love with the game. What? You fell out of love with football? How? Like, just because you've had a bit of a bad game, or you've been released, or you aren't resilient enough, or you haven't got that bounce back ability to try and get back on the horse and have another go at it. And that's something that I hate. I hate that phrase. I hate it. But I've had some ups and downs, some knockbacks, but I'm still here, and hopefully I'll be here for a long time to come.
You'll be pleased to know we've came to our last question.
Oh, great.
We're going to be really sad because we've definitely enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Oh, great. Good. Me too. It's been great.
So we're going to need some of your wisdom.
Oh, crikey.
What advice would you give to those that would like to pursue a career in football, whether that's in coaching, being a player, or just being behind the scenes?
I think if I was going to be totally honest, 2 words: work ethic.
Nice.
That'd be it. I don't think I can probably elaborate anymore. And I think that, I'm going to, because that's me, isn't it? I say I'm not going to elaborate. I'm just about to elaborate all the irony.
You elaborate.
Yeah. But work ethic and believe that you if you're gonna do something, you've got to work your socks off. But enjoy the journey, enjoy the ride as well. You're going to be ups and downs. But just have that work ethic, and I say it all the time. If you're prepared, you get nothing doing nothing. You're gonna have to work at it, make sacrifices, but just have that work ethic, because ultimately, I'm a big believer that the harder you graft, the more fortune you get. And that would be my advice to any young person, no more a footballer. You know, if you want to achieve anything, you've really got to have that work ethic. And do you know what? That's free, isn't it? That's free work ethic, and you just got to have it in you to be able to, if you want to achieve. You know, I say it all the time to my kids that they all know the cost of everything, but they don't know the value of anything. How hard it is to earn that right to buy those trainers, or you know, they're all like 240 quid then. Oh yeah, I know. Yeah, do you know how many hours you have to work?
Yeah,
to them?
that's how much.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you know, so it's one of them. It's, you know, it's just work hard, and hopefully you'll get the rewards, and keep believing that the harder you work, you will get that little break. You know? But yeah, that'll be it, I suppose.
Perfect. Well, Liam, thank you so much for being our first guest for season 2.
You're welcome.
We've had a great conversation, haven't we? We could sit here all night and chat with you.
Yeah, but you think if you're glad it's over, it's over now, yeah.
No. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me. It's been a pleasure.
So, as normal, if you like what you hear, please like, rate, and subscribe.
Tune in every other Monday. We have some really cool, some vibey guests coming your way.
I'm Demi.
I'm Nat.
Bye.